started as a joke. That is what Daniel believed. It was his 32nd birthday. The house was full of noise, laughter, and music. Friends were eating cake. His mother was telling old stories, and his wife, Laura, was smiling proudly beside him. Daniel always loved family gatherings. He believed his life was simple and strong. A loving wife, a small daughter, and parents who never missed a birthday. He felt lucky. When it was time to open gifts, Daniel acted like a child again. He made funny faces, shook the boxes, and guessed what was inside. Everyone laughed. Then Laura handed him a small white box. It looked different from the other gifts. "Open this one last," she said with a playful smile. Daniel raised his eyebrows. "What is it? A puppy?" he joked. People laughed again. He slowly opened the box. Inside was a DNA test kit. The room became quiet for a second. Then someone laughed. "Oh wow. Now we will finally know where you really come from," his cousin said. Daniel laughed too. His mother always told everyone they had strong Italian blood. His father always said their family history was simple and proud. So this felt harmless. Just a fun test. "Maybe I am secretly royal," Daniel said dramatically, making everyone laugh again. Laura kissed his cheek. "Now we will know the truth," she said. Truth. The word meant nothing at that moment. Daniel felt relaxed. He did not think twice. The next morning, while drinking coffee, he opened the kit. He read the instructions carefully. Spit in the tube. Close the lid. Shake gently. Send it back. Felt silly, almost boring. He sealed the package and dropped it at the post office on his way to work. And that was it. He forgot about it. 3 weeks passed. Life continued normally. Work meetings, school runs, grocery shopping, family dinners. Nothing changed. Until one Thursday evening. Daniel was sitting on the couch scrolling through his phone. Laura was in the kitchen washing dishes. His daughter was asleep upstairs. His phone buzzed. An email notification appeared on the screen. "Your DNA results are ready." He smiled. "Oh right, that thing," he said quietly. He almost ignored it. But curiosity is strong. He clicked the email. A colorful page opened. There were maps, percentages, and long numbers. He scrolled slowly. 40% Southern European, 22% Eastern European, some small percentages from other regions. Interesting, but normal. He kept scrolling. Then he saw a section called Close Family Matches. His heart beat a little faster, but he did not know why. He expected to see his father's name, maybe his mother's. Instead, he saw something strange. Possible parent match 0%. He blinked. That did not make sense. He refreshed the page. Still 0%. He sat up straight. Maybe he was reading it wrong. He looked again. Slower this time. The system showed no DNA match with the man listed as his father in his profile. Not low. Not partial. 0. His chest felt tight. "That is impossible," he whispered. He scrolled further down. There was another name. Marcus Hill, 49.8% shared DNA. Possible biological father. Daniel stopped breathing for a moment. The room suddenly felt smaller. The soft sound of dishes in the kitchen felt very far away. His mind started racing. Who is Marcus Hill? Why does it say possible father? This must be a mistake. Tests make mistakes, right? His hands started shaking. He read the numbers again and again, but they did not change. The screen stayed cold and clear. Laura walked into the living room and noticed his face. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Daniel looked at her, but he could not speak. He turned the phone toward her. She read silently. Her smile slowly disappeared. The joke was no longer funny. The room felt heavy. Daniel's whole life suddenly felt like a question mark. Every memory with his father flashed in his mind. Teaching him to ride a bike, clapping at his school graduation, crying at his wedding. Was all of that real? Or was it built on a lie? He felt confused, angry, scared, but most of all he felt lost. Because if the man who raised him was not his father, then who was he? And why did nobody tell him? Daniel stared at the screen again. The small white box from his birthday sat on the shelf nearby. Just a simple joke gift. Something fun, something light, but now it felt like a bomb that had just exploded quietly inside his home. And he had no idea that this was only the beginning, because hidden behind those numbers was a secret that had been sleeping for 32 years. And once a secret wakes up, it never goes back to sleep. Daniel did not sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Laura slept beside him, but he could feel the space between them. It felt larger than the room itself. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the name again. Marcus Hill. The name looked normal, simple, ordinary, but it did not feel ordinary. Felt dangerous, like a door that should never be opened. At 3 a.m, Daniel quietly got out of bed. He walked into the living room and opened his laptop. The house was silent. Only the soft ticking of the wall clock filled the air. He logged back into the DNA website. His hands were cold. He clicked on the name. Marcus Hill, 49.8% shared DNA. Possible biological father. The words felt sharp. Below the name was a small photo. A middle-aged man with gray hair and serious eyes. Daniel stared at the face. He leaned closer to the screen. The shape of the nose. The line of the jaw. Something looked familiar. Or maybe his mind was playing tricks on him. He quickly closed the laptop. No, he whispered to himself. This is not real. But it was real. And the numbers were clear. He stood up and walked to the kitchen. He poured himself a glass of water. But his hand was shaking so much that some spilled on the floor. His whole life suddenly felt like a story someone else had written. His father, Robert, was a strong and proud man. He worked hard, never complained, and loved his family deeply. Robert taught Daniel how to fix a car, how to stand up for himself, how to protect the people he loves. Robert always said, "A man's blood is his honor." Those words now felt heavy. What if the blood was not his? Daniel felt something else growing inside him. A new question. If Robert was not his biological father, did Robert know? Or had he also been living in a lie? The thought made Daniel's chest hurt. He opened the laptop again. This time he scrolled further down the page. There was another match listed. Emily Hill, 24.9% shared DNA. Possible half-sibling. Half-sibling. Daniel read the word slowly. It meant he had a sister he never met, a sister who might not even know he exists. He clicked her profile. There was a small smiling photo of a young woman, maybe 25 years old. She looked kind, normal, like someone who had no idea that her life was about to change too. Daniel felt strange. Part of him was curious, part of him was angry, and part of him was afraid. He suddenly remembered something. When he was a child, he once asked his mother why he did not look like his father. His hair was darker, his eyes sharper. His mother laughed and said, "You got your grandfather's genes." He believed her. Children always believe their parents. But now that memory felt different. Felt like a hidden clue he had missed. Daniel closed his eyes and tried to think clearly. Maybe there was a mistake in the system. Maybe someone mixed up samples. Maybe this Marcus Hill was just a coincidence. But deep inside, he knew the truth was sitting right in front of him. And it was not going away. He looked at the clock. 4:30 in the morning. In just a few hours, the sun would rise, and everything would look normal again. His parents would wake up, drink coffee, read the newspaper. They would smile and talk about small things. But Daniel now knew something that could break them. He imagined walking into their house, putting the printed results on the kitchen table, asking one simple question. Who is Marcus Hill? He imagined his mother's face. Would she cry? Would she deny it? Would she finally tell the truth? The truth that had been sleeping for 32 years. Daniel felt anger rising inside him. Not loud anger, not screaming anger, but quiet anger, the kind that burns slowly. Because this was not just about DNA. It was about identity, about trust, about a life built on something that might not be real. The sky outside slowly began to change color, dark blue turning into soft gray. Daniel had not moved for almost an hour. He was still staring at the two names on the screen. Marcus Hill, Emily Hill, two strangers connected to him by blood, while the man who raised him might not share a single drop. The sun finally rose. Its light entered the room gently, but Daniel did not feel any warmth, because he knew something important. Once you learn a secret like this, you cannot pretend you do not know. You cannot go back to being the same person. And now he had a choice: keep the secret and protect his family's peace, or speak the truth and risk destroying everything. Daniel closed the laptop slowly. His decision was not made yet, but one thing was clear: the name he was never supposed to see was about to change all of their lives forever. Daniel did not call before going. He did not text. He did not warn anyone. He just drove. The morning felt strange. The sky was bright, birds were singing, and people were walking their dogs like it was a normal day. But inside Daniel, nothing felt normal. His hands were tight on the steering wheel. His mind kept repeating the same question: did they lie to me? When he reached his parents' house, he sat in the car for a few minutes. The house looked the same as always. The small garden his father loved, the blue curtains in the window, the wooden door with the old brass handle. So familiar, so safe. But today it felt different, like a place holding a secret. Daniel finally stepped out of the car. His legs felt heavy. He walked to the door and knocked. A few seconds later, his mother opened it. She smiled warmly. "Daniel, what a surprise," she said happily. Her smile almost broke him. For a second, he wanted to turn around and leave, to pretend none of this was real. But he stayed. "Hi, Mom," he said softly. She stepped aside to let him in. His father was sitting at the kitchen table reading the newspaper. "Hey, son," his father said without looking up. That word hit Daniel hard. "Son." He walked slowly to the kitchen. The smell of fresh coffee filled the room. Everything looked peaceful, too peaceful. Daniel took a deep breath and placed a folded paper on the table. "I need to ask something," he said quietly. His father lowered the newspaper. His mother looked confused. "What is it?" she asked gently. Daniel pushed the paper toward them. It was the printed DNA result. His mother's hands froze when she saw the words. His father looked at the paper, then at Daniel. "I took a DNA test," Daniel said. His voice was calm, but inside he was shaking. His father frowned. "For fun," Daniel added. No one laughed. The room became very quiet. Daniel pointed at the name on the paper. "Who is Marcus Hill?" he asked. The question stayed in the air like smoke. His mother's face lost all color. Her lips opened slightly, but no words came out. His father looked confused. "Who?" his father asked slowly. Daniel did not take his eyes off his mother. "Marcus Hill," he repeated. Tears suddenly filled her eyes. That was enough. Daniel felt his stomach drop. His father looked at her, then back at Daniel. "What is going on?" he asked, his voice stronger now. Daniel swallowed hard. "The test says he is my biological father," he said. The words felt heavy, like stones falling on the table. His father stood up slowly. "That is nonsense," he said firmly. "There must be a mistake." Daniel wished it was a mistake. He wished this moment did not exist. But his mother started crying softly, and that changed everything. His father looked at her with shock. "Tell me this is not true," he said. She covered her face with her hands. "I was young," she whispered. "It was before we were fully together." Daniel felt like the air had disappeared from the room. His father stared at her. "You told me he was mine," he said slowly. Her silence was the answer. Daniel's chest hurt. He looked at the man who had raised him, the man who taught him right from wrong, the man who never missed a school game. And now that man looked broken. "I did not know," his father said quietly. His voice sounded empty. I swear I did not know. Daniel believed him. That made it worse, because now there were two victims at the table. His father sat down heavily. 32 years of memories were sitting between them. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, family trips. Were they fake? Or were they still real? Daniel's mother tried to speak again. I was afraid, she said through tears. I thought it would never come out. Daniel felt anger rise inside him. Never come out, he repeated. It was my life. His voice finally cracked. You let me grow up believing something that was not true. His father stood up again. Not angry, just hurt. I need air, he said and walked outside. The door closed softly behind him. Daniel and his mother were left alone in the kitchen. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Time felt slow, painful. Why did you never tell him? Daniel asked quietly. She looked at him with regret. Because I was afraid of losing everything, she said. Daniel looked around the kitchen, at the photos on the fridge, at the small marks on the wall from when he was a child. Everything felt different now, like he was standing inside a memory that no longer belonged to him. Outside the window, he saw his father sitting on the garden bench, looking at the ground, alone. Daniel realized something in that moment. The DNA test did not just reveal a secret. It broke trust, and broken trust is harder to fix than broken blood. Daniel stood up slowly. The truth was finally out, but instead of feeling free, he felt heavier than ever, because now he knew. The kitchen felt too small after his father walked out. Daniel stood near the table, but his legs felt weak. His mother was still crying softly, wiping her face again and again. But Daniel could not look at her. He turned and walked toward the back door. He needed to see his father. Outside, the morning air felt cold and sharp. The garden looked peaceful. Bright flowers, green grass, the same wooden bench near the tree. But on that bench sat a man Daniel had never seen before. Not because it was a different man, but because it was a broken one. Robert was sitting with his elbows on his knees, staring at the ground. His strong shoulders looked smaller. His back looked tired. Daniel walked slowly toward him. For the first time in his life, he did not know what to say to his father. He sat down beside him, leaving a small space between them. The silence felt heavy. Birds were singing. A car passed on the street. The world was moving like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. After a long moment, Robert finally spoke. Did you know? He asked quietly. Daniel shook his head. No, he answered honestly. Robert nodded slowly. I did not know either, he said. His voice was calm, but it carried pain. Daniel looked at him carefully. There was no anger in his father's eyes, only deep sadness. Robert let out a slow breath. I remember the day you were born, he said. I held you in my arms and promised I would protect you. Daniel felt tears building in his eyes. You were so small, Robert continued, and I was so proud. Daniel swallowed hard. You are still my father, Daniel said softly. Robert closed his eyes for a second. That is the problem, he replied. Daniel did not understand at first. Robert looked at his hands. I gave you my name, he said. I gave you my time, my lessons, my love. And now I find out the blood is not mine. Daniel felt the words hit him like stones. He wanted to fix this. He wanted to erase the morning. But he could not. Robert stood up slowly and walked a few steps away. He looked at the small apple tree he planted when Daniel was 10. You remember when we planted this? Robert asked. Daniel nodded. You said roots are important, Daniel replied quietly. Robert gave a small sad smile. Yes, he said. Roots are important. They both understood what he meant. Blood, family, history, roots. Daniel felt something inside him break again. Does it change how you feel about me? Daniel asked carefully. Robert turned toward him. For a second, Daniel saw the same man who taught him how to ride a bike. the same man who ran beside him until he learned balance. Then Robert spoke. "I do not know," he said honestly. That answer hurt more than anger would have, because it was real, and real pain is quiet. They stood in silence again. Inside the house, Daniel could see his mother through the window. She was standing alone in the kitchen, holding onto the counter. Daniel suddenly felt anger rise again, not at his father, but at the secret, at the lie that had been living in this house for 32 years. "Why did she not tell you?" Daniel asked. Robert shook his head slowly. "Maybe she was afraid," he said. "Maybe she hoped the truth would never come out." Daniel let out a bitter breath. "It came out," he said. Robert nodded. "Yes," he answered quietly. "It always does." The words felt heavy. Daniel realized something in that moment. This was not only about him finding out the truth. It was about his father losing something he never even knew was missing. His father had believed his whole life was solid, strong, clear, and now there was a crack in the foundation, and cracks change everything. Robert walked back to the bench and sat down again. "I feel like a fool," he admitted softly. Daniel quickly shook his head. "You are not a fool," he said firmly. "You are the best man I know." Robert looked at him carefully. "Then why does it feel like something was stolen from me?" he asked. Daniel had no answer, because something had been stolen. Time, trust, truth. They both sat there as the sun rose higher in the sky, the warmth slowly touching their faces. But inside, everything still felt cold. After a long silence, Robert spoke again. "Are you going to meet him?" he asked quietly. Daniel knew exactly who he meant. Marcus Hill. The name still felt strange. "I do not know," Daniel answered honestly. Robert nodded slowly. "If you do," he said, "I cannot stop you." There was no anger in his voice, only acceptance. Daniel felt tears finally fall down his face, because in that moment, he understood something painful. Love can exist without blood, but blood can still cause damage. And now they were standing in the middle of that damage, trying to understand who they were, and who they would be after this. Daniel looked at his father one more time, and for the first time, Daniel waited 3 days before sending the message. 3 long days of thinking. 3 long nights of staring at the ceiling. The name Marcus Hill felt heavy in his mind. He opened the DNA website again and looked at the small message button beside the profile. His finger hovered over it. What do you even say to someone who might be your father? After a long breath, he typed slowly. "Hello, my name is Daniel. I believe we may be connected through a DNA test. I think we should talk." He read the message 5 times before pressing send. Once it was sent, there was no way to take it back. The waiting began. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart jumped. He felt like he was standing on the edge of something big, something that could change everything again. 2 days later, the reply came. Daniel stared at the notification for a full minute before opening it. The message was short. "My name is Marcus Hill. I received the same notification. I was shocked. I did not know about you. If you want to talk, I am ready." Daniel read the words again. He did not know about you, so his father truly did not know either. That thought made things more complicated. They agreed to meet at a small cafe halfway between their homes. Neutral ground. Safe. Or at least that was the plan. The morning of the meeting felt unreal. Daniel looked at himself in the mirror longer than usual. He searched his own face, trying to see if he could find pieces of this stranger inside him. Was his nose the same? Was his smile similar? Or was everything just in his imagination? When he arrived at the cafe, his hands were cold again. The place smelled like coffee and fresh bread. People were talking, laughing, living normal lives. Daniel chose a table near the window. He kept looking at the door. Every time it opened, his heart beat faster. Then finally he saw him. A tall man with gray hair and serious eyes walked inside. He looked around the room slowly. Then his eyes stopped on Daniel. For a moment, neither of them moved. felt like looking into a strange mirror. Not identical, but similar enough to make Daniel's stomach twist. Marcus walked toward him slowly. "Daniel," he said carefully. His voice was calm but unsure. Daniel stood up. "Marcus," he replied. They shook hands. The touch felt normal, but also strange. They sat down. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Marcus broke the silence. "I did not know about you," he said honestly. Daniel nodded slowly. "My mother said it was before she fully committed to my father," Daniel explained. Marcus looked down at the table. "I was young back then," he said quietly. "She never told me she was pregnant." Daniel watched his face carefully, trying to see if there was guilt, regret, or lies, but he only saw surprise and confusion. "I have a daughter," Marcus continued. "Emily." Daniel's chest tightened. "My half-sister," he said softly. Marcus nodded. "Yes." They both sat in silence again. The truth was sitting between them like a third person, heavy and impossible to ignore. Marcus looked at Daniel carefully. "You look like my father," he said slowly. Daniel felt a strange feeling inside, a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "I always thought I looked like my mom," Daniel replied. Marcus gave a small sad smile. "Maybe you have both," he said. Daniel leaned back in his chair. "So what does this mean?" he asked directly. Marcus took a deep breath. "It means I have a son I did not know existed," he answered. The word son felt strange coming from his mouth. Daniel noticed it too. They were connected by blood, but they were strangers, complete strangers. "I already have a father," Daniel said carefully. Marcus nodded quickly. "I am not trying to replace him," he said. "I understand." There was no anger in his voice, only caution. "I just want to know you," Marcus added. The words sounded simple, but they carried weight. Daniel thought about his father sitting alone in the garden, about the pain in his eyes, about the life built on love, not blood. And now here he was, sitting across from a man who shared his DNA but none of his memories. Marcus suddenly asked softly, "Does he know?" Daniel nodded. "Yes." Marcus looked down again. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," he said quietly. Daniel believed him, but belief did not remove the damage. They talked for over an hour, about small things at first, work, hobbies, favorite foods, but under every word was one big question. Who are we to each other? When they finally stood up to leave, Marcus hesitated. "If you ever want to meet Emily," he said gently. "She knows now." Daniel felt another wave of emotion rise inside him. A sister, a new piece of his identity, a new connection. "I will think about it," Daniel answered honestly. Outside the cafe, they stood facing each other for a moment. Marcus extended his hand again. But this, after the meeting at the cafe, nothing felt steady anymore. Daniel returned home, but his mind was still sitting across from Marcus. He kept hearing his voice, calm and careful. "I just want to know you." The words sounded simple, but they created a storm inside him. That evening, he visited his parents again. The house was quiet this time. No coffee smell, no soft music, no warm welcome. His mother was in the living room folding laundry. She looked tired, older somehow. His father was not inside. "He's in the garage," she said softly, without looking at Daniel. Daniel walked toward the garage slowly. The door was half open. Inside, Robert was standing near his old workbench. Tools were spread around him, but nothing was being fixed. He was just standing there, staring at a piece of wood, as if trying to build something that could not be repaired. "Dad," Daniel said carefully. Robert did not turn immediately. "Did you meet him?" he asked quietly. Daniel froze for a second. "Yes," he answered honestly. Robert nodded slowly, still not looking at him. "How was it?" Daniel did not know how to explain it. "Strange," he finally said. Robert let out a soft breath. "I imagine it would be," he replied. Daniel stepped inside the garage. The air smelled like oil and dust. The place felt safe, familiar, like the childhood he grew up in. "He did not know about me," Daniel said gently. Robert finally turned around. "I believe that," he said. There was no anger in his voice, only distance. Daniel felt it clearly. A space had formed between them, invisible but strong. "Dad," Daniel said softly, but Robert interrupted him. "You do not have to call me that right now," he said quietly. The words hit Daniel harder than anything else. "I want to," Daniel replied quickly. Robert looked at him carefully. "I am still trying to understand what I am," he admitted. The honesty hurt, but it was real. Daniel stepped closer. "You are the man who raised me," he said firmly. Robert's eyes softened for a moment. "But I am not the man who made you," he answered. Daniel felt frustration rising. "Making a child is biology," he said. "Raising one is love." Robert looked away. "And what if love is not enough?" he asked quietly. The question stayed in the garage like smoke. Daniel realized something painful in that moment. His father was not only hurt by the secret, he was afraid of being replaced, afraid of losing his place. That night, tension filled the dinner table. His mother tried to speak about small things, weather, neighbors, television, but no one listened. Every silence felt loud. Every glance felt heavy. After dinner, Daniel received a message. It was from Marcus. "Emily would like to meet you," the message said. Daniel stared at the phone. A new step, another change. He looked up and saw his father watching him. "Is it him?" Robert asked quietly. Daniel nodded slowly. "They want to meet," he said. Robert's jaw tightened slightly. "You should go," he said after a pause. The words were supportive, but the pain behind them was clear. Daniel felt torn in half. He wanted to explore this new connection, to understand his identity, but every step forward felt like a step away from the man who raised him. Later that night, Robert knocked softly on Daniel's old bedroom door. Daniel looked up in surprise. His father rarely knocked. Robert stepped inside slowly. He looked around the room. The old trophies, the faded posters, the memories on the walls. "I remember painting this room blue," he said softly. "You were 8. Daniel smiled slightly. "You spilled paint on the carpet," Robert added. For a brief second, they both laughed. Then the silence returned. "I am not angry at you," Robert said suddenly. Daniel looked up quickly. "I know," he replied. "I am angry at the situation," Robert continued, "and maybe a little at myself." "For what?" Daniel asked. "For not seeing it," Robert said quietly. Daniel shook his head. "You could not see something that was hidden," he said firmly. Robert walked closer. "I just do not want to lose you," he admitted. There it was, the real fear. Daniel stood up immediately. "You will not," he said strongly. "I am not choosing between you." Robert looked at him carefully. "Life does not always allow that," he said softly. Daniel felt tears in his eyes again. "Then I will make it allow that," he answered. Because in that moment he understood something clearly. This was not about blood versus love. It was about space, and whether there was enough space in his heart for two fathers. Outside, the night was quiet, but inside this house, emotions were moving like a storm. Daniel realized that the DNA test did not just reveal a secret, created a new reality, and now everyone had to decide how to live inside it. He looked at his father one more time before sleeping, and he saw